Okay, we'll pause it.
That's about dinner. It was always, our family always had something. Never stopped our whole lives.
Why did I come on? Oh,
We got married.
no, before we got married.
Oh, I don't know.
I was there on Friday nights, so we would go to services.
I think that was after we were married. Well, anyway, Grandma used to come to Friday night dinner, and she and I would go to Friday night services together.
Yeah.
This went on for years. And we enjoyed, Rabbi Goldman was a wonderful speaker, and we enjoyed the service.
And then, excuse me, when Sharon was born, and Sarah,
then they went with us to Grandma and Grandpa's,
and then we dropped them.
and we
They
stayed
stayed there
overnight.
overnight.
And we would leave them to go to services, and then we'd pick them up the next day.
So other than Friday night dinners, you weren't required to be at dinner any other night of the week. So what did would you usually go out by yourself to go get dinner, or you would eat at home?
There was always some dinner for me. For my brothers too, I never noticed.
Oh, all right.
How about the relationship between you and your brothers? Did you get along for the most part? Did you ever get in trouble together?
We got along. We were each in our own interests. We didn't share many things, and we went each our own way. And there was about 4 years difference between us, and in those days that was a lot of time. And so it was 8 years between my birthday and my youngest brother. So he was much younger than I was, and it was different. We weren't very close.
Now, if you did get in trouble, what were your punishments like? Maybe you never got in trouble.
We never got in trouble.
You never got in trouble? Wow.
No,
Grandpa never got in trouble. He was too busy studying and listening to music
Yeah.
and driving his car, and he never got into trouble.
Okay.
my brothers didn't either. We really didn't have time for it.
Yeah. So, Grandpa, can you describe where the place you grew up in, the house, apartment, wherever that was, kind of like Grandma was talking about? Did you have your own room? Was it a nice place? Just describe what you can remember of it.
Well, when I went to Delano Grammar School, we had, in fact, we were probably only one of the very few people in the whole area that had our own home. And it was on Gladys Avenue on the west side. It was a rather large home. I had my own room. But when the neighborhood became rather bad, and my father and mother wanted to move to the north side, which we did, and we got an apartment just about on Lake Michigan, and I had my own room again. We all looking over the lake, and I had
It's a gorgeous view of the lake. There's nothing in between his room and the lake.
Wow.
And I had a lot of good friends in high school that used to come over. We'd visit together and listen to music together and all sorts of things. And we were playing a lot of tennis. That was our main sport.
It sounds like your family was very well off.
They're pretty well off. Yeah.
What did your parents do for a living, or at least your father?
Well, my father had the business that I took over, which was safety clothing.
We're going to talk more about that
Yeah,
later.
we're going to get into that.
And that was it.
Wow.
Because the business started the year I was born. So by the time I got old enough to know there was a business, the business was going.
Did your brothers also have anything to do with the business? And we'll get into this more again later, like I said.
Yeah, they had almost nothing. They weren't too busy with their lives. And as it happened, I had to take over a lot of the business when I was only 19 or 20 because the superintendent of a factory here died suddenly. It was a serious illness.
Okay.
And my father needed someone who would come in and really help, and I did. So I used to go to night school, I used to go to day school, I used to work during the day and night, whole thing.
Okay. So again, we'll talk more about that later,
Okay.
but the next question for you, we know the name of the school, you've mentioned it. Did you walk, did you drive your car? And then what some of your favorite subjects were, what a typical school day was like, who your friends were at school, all those sorts of things.
Well, grammar school, I don't remember anything about the school. I remember I had good friends that lived in our block. You know, in those days, your neighbors in your block were your community.
Yeah.
And we we were all very close, a lot of friends that way. I'll tell you one funny story if
Please.
you want.
Yes.
In 1928, so I was 7 years old, there was a presidential election, and Al Smith ran against Herbert Hoover, Democrat governor. And the whole block was very much interested, and everyone but me was a Democrat,
Including
everyone. And they used to march up and down with signs for Al Smith, you know, and I thought, oh my God, Herbert Hoover hasn't got a chance. Then I found out after the day of the election that Herbert Hoover won. I could not to this day figure out how he made it. When everybody else in the whole block was against him. You know, the whole world was just my block. I was 78 years old. So just shows you. I don't know what it shows you, but it shows you.
Yeah.
What were your favorite subjects in school?
I don't remember. Well, in high school, my favorites were science and literature.
Mm-hmm. And did you walk or did you drive
I
your...
walked. In grammar school, of course, I walked. In high school, I walked for the most part. Did I have a car?
I thought you
Maybe
didn't get it till you went
I
to
was a
Northwestern.
senior anyway.
How far of a walk was it? How long?
Well, it must have been about a mile and a half, I would guess. From the lake to San, it's quite about a mile. I don't know. I never paid attention to it. I always had people walking with me.
Mm-hmm. And then what sort of activities and stuff you were involved in besides the academics? Clubs, athletics, anything of that sort that you were involved in, or too busy studying?
No, I used to play, as I say, we used to play a lot of tennis, even when I was in high school. Our schools didn't have many extracurricular activities.
Mm-hmm.
You just studied.
Yeah.
You worked at it.
Yeah.
Grandpa wasn't a sport, wasn't an athlete. that takes care of a lot of,
Yeah.
except for tennis.
But we did enjoy tennis.
Yeah.
And Graham and I played tennis for a lot of time.
And then what kind of things you and your friends would do on like weekends, stuff for entertainment? Did you, movies or anything like that?
Well, we always go to movies. I was in grammar school. I went to movies by myself usually because my folks would let me go. I didn't want to stay around the house because they were busy with something. And there was a theater, the Crawford Theater was on Crawford near where we lived, about 3 blocks away. And they had serials. I don't know if you remember serials. You would know what a serial is. Anyway, they had several chapters of this movie. It always ended up with someone like Perils of Pauline hanging by their teeth on the edge of a cliff. Anyway,
Silent. These were silent.
And they used to have westerns, and I used to love it. I used to go every Saturday. I'd go to movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know of anything else. We didn't have any television. I can assure you of that.
Mm-hmm.
How about other interests growing up? Reading, walking, friends hanging out with you, anything you used to do?
Well, at Archie-Emmett we had things, didn't we?
Well, yeah, you were a little older. That was high school.
Yeah,
We had what was called a couples club.
that was when we were married.
No, that was when we were married. No, forget that.
No, I don't know of any. We didn't have many extracurricular activities.
Okay.
We didn't have extracurricular activities. I have several friends. We had a lot of friends, but we each, we kind of went out each our own way, and each group kept together.
Okay.
When you were a little kid, did you ever know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Well, my father decided, I guess, before I could make my own mind up, that I was going to go into business because he wanted someone to take over. In fact, when I was 12 years old, I was going with him on calls, I was doing things, and so it always occurred to me, nothing occurred to me but that I would go into the business someday.
And then our last question for you is the same that we asked for Grandma. We want to hear about what it was like going through the Great Depression as you were a kid, how it affected you and your family.
It affected us quite a bit. I'll never forget, I wanted a pair of roller skates, and it cost 25 cents. And it took me months to get them to give me 25 cents to buy a pair of roller skates, because they didn't have it. But my father built a business that did pretty well eventually, and even did well all the time during the Depression. He didn't lose money on it. And so we always had enough to eat, and we had our home. The Depression was something I knew about, but it didn't affect me too much personally, except for my roller skates.
All right, to wrap it up, how about any favorite memories of your childhood or anything else you'd like us to know about it?
No, I know when I was 16 I met your grandma, and that became my hobby from then on.
All right, well, with that, we'll take a short break and we'll come back in a little bit.
Thank you.
This is fun.
All right, so we heard a little bit about you guys in high school. We want to know whether or not you wore uniforms, what you wore to school, and then also your dating life. Who else you dated, how many people you dated before you met each other, and serious relationships, how long you were with them. Either one of you can start.
Well, we didn't wear uniforms. That was, and it was a Catholic school. I mean, a Catholic town, Aberdeen. But no. Dating. When did we start? Well, I didn't date in Aberdeen because there were no Jewish guys. So we just sort of had a group that did things together. Halloween, I will never forget. That used to be a very big do. Because we were really, I shouldn't tell you, I mean, we were really bad. We really were. We did, we put pins in doorbells to make them keep ringing. We did a lot of, I shouldn't tell you. You're too old to do it now, so maybe it's safe, but.
It's safe.
We put things in the middle of the street. It was very unsafe. I mean, we were really bad, really bad. Our parents didn't know what we were doing, but I can remember. Oof, it was terrible. Of course, it was all the others' ideas and doing. You know, I didn't have anything to do with it, so. That sort of let me off the hook. Anyway, that was a very big holiday, Halloween, and we did it up round. Now, what else? Dating? I didn't date in Aberdeen. I didn't date until I went to Chicago, which I was 15 years old. I was a junior in high school. We had groups. We went together, you know, groups of girls and boys or whatever, but I didn't date until I came to Chicago. And it wasn't long before it was Grandpa that I was dating.
That's okay, keep going.
Um,
All right, actually, we're going to go ahead and... Okay, so Grandma, will you finish telling us about your dating in Chicago?
I don't know what else there is to tell.
Well,
except
who...
that I dated besides Grandpa?
Yeah.
You had boyfriends, you had guys who were
Yeah, well, they didn't last very long because you came along and he decided, why should he fix me up with others when he thought he could date me himself?
There was one young man I didn't have anything to do with. You met at Aunt Shaman.
Oh, Jerry Weinstein. Oh boy, that was a real thing.
What was that?
I was in the choir, I said, at Aunt Shaman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one person that was in the choir was Jerry Weinstein. And he used to take me home every week when we had, I think it was just once a week we had choir practice. And we got rather friendly. And you didn't know about it for a while, I don't think, did you?
Probably.
I don't think you knew about it for a while. Anyway, that added to the fun, of course, of being in the choir and going to practice every week and singing every Friday night and so on. So that was one boyfriend that was around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Then-
Nice looking guy.
Very,
Good
very,
looking guy.
very nice looking guy. A little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very nice looking guy. Anyway, that was, and then there were a couple of others that were friends that came in pairs.
Ira.
Short. Oh, I forgot about Ira. Oh, I forgot about Ira. No, that was another. Yeah, he was a year older. A friend by the name of Ira.
Mm-hmm.
Very good looking. Oh, is he good looking? Blonde. I don't know how he was blonde, but he was.
He was a good looking guy.
Huh?
Dumb as he could be, but a good looking
Don't
guy.
think.
You didn't have to put that in.
Well, he was dumb because he gave you up.
How about that? Wow. He gave me up. With you there morning, noon, and night, what else was there to do? Anyway, yeah, that was a boyfriend. Ira was a boyfriend.
Do you remember his last name?
His last name was Lifshitz, but he changed it to Morton. He incidentally just passed away not long ago.
Yeah.
He lived in
Phoenix.
Phoenix, Arizona, and he told his daughter evidently had heard so much about me. I was the first one she called. She said she had to call Joy. Yeah, we had a thing sort of at one time.
Okay, so Grandma, can you describe yourself in high school? You know, were you popular, nerdy? Did you have a lot of friends? Were you a good student?
The latter, no. The former, yes.
You were a good student. Why do you say no?
I wasn't an A student.
Nobody here, very few people were. You were a good student.
Okay, emphasis, I was a good student.
Okay.
So we'll leave that I was a good student, right? High school was, I came to Chicago when I was a sophomore in high school. So that was a big change for me. You know, Aberdeen, I didn't have one Jewish friend my age, male or female. I came to Chicago, and that's all I had were Jewish friends. I mean, that was such a shock and such an adjustment that it really was, I mean, it took a while to get used to that, that I could talk to everybody and they knew what I was saying, you know, that we could have this Jewishness in common because that was something that was very, very foreign to me. So,
Do you think you belong to any sort of social clique? Popular, nerds, athletic, or, you know?
well, Aunt Shamet was the place that we came to and was hung out. That was really our gathering place. And we met, all Jewish and good kids. Yeah, we had a nice time there. And the one that got me there was, as I said before, this Naomi Goldman, later married Al Ziemel, but she was the daughter of Rabbi Solomon Goldman. And that was such an entree. I mean, that just got me into everything. And he used to have, after services on Friday night, he would have gatherings of young people to his home, which was wonderful. We really got to be very close to him. He was a wonderful man, a scholar, a real scholar. He was known throughout the nation. And it was a real honor and a real treat to be in his home and to know him intimately.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite an experience
Mm-hmm.
for me, coming from Aberdeen.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to Grandpa and ask those same questions. We want to hear about your dating life before Grandma, too. So if you could tell us about that.
Well, I used to take out some young ladies. I don't remember their names exactly. Oh, I do. Right? I remember one. I remember our friend did a house for us.
Oh, Dorothy Brown?
Dorothy.
Yeah.
Dorothy Berman, and she married Dorothy Brown, and she married Dorothy somebody else. She and I, we were 16 when my first formal date, and I took her to the Chicago Theater
Wow.
by bus, but took her back by cab.
Wow.
And we had dinner, and I was so flustered that I forgot to leave a tip for the guy, for the waiter. And because of that, I never went back to the restaurant. I was so ashamed. But she was a nice girl. We knew her in Hachiema too. And there was
I'll just interrupt once
Yeah.
now, and I'll get it off my chest, and then you can go on. I used to work on Saturday to make some money because we were not so affluent. And I worked in a store, the Three Sisters, was that what it was called? On State Street. I made all of about $2.50 for an 8-hour working day. And it was not easy. I mean, I had to go into dressing booths to try on, the customers tried on dresses, and some of them weren't so clean and so whatever. Anyway, I did that for 8 hours I used to hold my breath every Saturday morning. The phone shouldn't ring and they shouldn't want me to come down to work. Oh, it was terrible, but they called. Anyway, so at the end of the work day, Grandpa would come to pick me up. And here I am, having had this terrible work day, making $2.50 for the day, and he comes pulling up in his Cadillac to pick me up. Remember?
Yeah.
It was a Cadillac, right?
That or a Buick, one of the two.
No, it was a Cadillac, I'm sure. So I got in the slowly car, and he took me home, which was great because I was exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say that. Were you asking him something?
Well, that's okay. We do, and then anything else you want to include, Grandpa, about the girls you dated? How long you were with them?
Yeah, you were about to say another girl's name.
Roth, what was her first name?
Who?
Roth.
Jean.
Jean Roth. Yeah. I went with her for a few weeks, or months. I'm not sure, months, I guess. And Dorothy, I was with her for a while. Then nothing, others too, I don't remember who they all were.
Mm-hmm.
Or something?
But none of them can match up to Grandma, so I dropped them all and
Good
stayed
choice.
with one.
Yeah. Now, how about Can you describe how you were in high school? Same question as Grandma. Would you describe yourself as popular, nerdy, so on and so forth? Did you consider yourself a good student?
Yeah, I think I was a good student. We had a group. There were a group of us who were really. They were very great students. They won the first two scholarships. Two of them won the first two scholarships, University of Chicago College, and there are others involved. And so we kept our friendship going for most of our lives. And we'd meet and talk and argue and do all sorts of things. I think I introduced them to music, which is one thing I did, and they introduced me to other things, and we were good friends. Some of them, Norton, he just died recently.
He was a very good friend.
Huh?
He was a very good friend.
Yeah, he was really a distinguished career. He became the head geographer of University of Chicago. Was in Army and Naval Intelligence during World War II. He's in command of a Marine and in command of a group of Marines. He published books. Anyway, we had some good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to meet a lot at what's the matter with me? The tennis courts.
At Waveland.
Waveland. You know where that is. That's Waveland is just near Lakeshore Drive, about 3,800 to 4,000 north. And all the kids, boys and girls, used to meet there with the tennis courts. We played tennis. And no matter when you got there, there's always a bunch of people, your friends or people you knew. And everybody just took their time playing tennis. You used to rack up, you rack up for tennis. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I don't know.
They have places where you put your tennis court, tennis racket, and it came your turn, you play tennis, We just, and there's always a big crowd. I'm talking about 30, 40 kids. They're always around. And I used to come from where I live, which was not near Waveland. I used to drive over. And we used to have we had some good friends. Most of them stayed with us all their lives. Art Lipsky, Ira, Bob Mills, many. I still have good friends today from that group.
I don't know if you can appreciate, you know where Irving Park is. Do you know where Irving Park is? It's 4000. Grandpa lived
Hollywood, which is 5200, I think.
I lived
Maybe more, maybe 5800.
on Surf Street, which was, Diversity was 28.
About 2800.
So this was, anyway, we were like this. I mean, I lived over here and he lived over there, and in the middle was the Waveland tennis courts and park and so on and so forth. But what I want to tell you is that we both went to Anshiamat. Were you at Anshiamat then?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, from the time I was 13, I was in
We were both at Anshiamat, but on Rosh Hashanah, we went for 2 days, went 2 days for Rosh Hashanah. And in the afternoon, it got very boring.
Oh, we didn't drive. In those days, we only walked.
Right. We walked. So came Rosh Hashanah afternoon. We couldn't be apart for so long, so we had to meet.
Yeah.
So we met at Irving Park, which was a good couple miles from each.
I'd walk and she'd walk.
Yeah.
And meet each other.
And we'd meet each other at Irving Park. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that tell you?
We actually want to hear about exactly how you guys met.
Well, we met in school at Anshiamat Sunday school.
Don't say anything about this one.
Huh?
Don't say anything about
No,
this one.
I should tell him that.
Now we have to
Yeah,
hear.
now you gotta tell us.
No, you can't tell me that.
Yeah, the first time that we met, we were both in Sunday school, high school. I was sitting on the aisle on this side, and Grandma was sitting on the aisle on that side, and she looked beautiful from across the aisle. So I decided, this is for me.
Had you talked to her before that?
No, we didn't never met before that. This is the first time we saw each other. We were about 16 years old. And she was wearing a green dress. I remember clearly. I'll never forget it. And from then on, I was lost, but she wasn't. Eventually she lost. She became enamored with me, and we made it together.
So how did you guys first start talking to each other?
Wait, I want to hear about the sweater.
About the what?
The sweater.
Yeah, the sweater.
I don't know, we just talked, you know. After all, a good-looking girl sitting across the aisle, you talk.
Sweater was a little tight.
Yeah, that's a very attractive dress you want. Anyway, it was, we really hit it off eventually.
Did you guys start off as friends, or did you start dating right away?
Friends,
We
really.
were friends, yeah.
Yeah, she was going with a friend of mine.
When you liked her?
Yeah, I decided that's not right. So we got rid of him in a hurry, and
Grandma, did you know Grandpa liked you?
Sort of. He didn't exactly, he wasn't very reticent about it.
So then how'd you ask her out, Grandpa? What'd you do?
I don't remember. Yeah, well,
First time, I don't remember.
huh?
The first time, I don't
I
remember.
don't remember.
What I do remember is when we became engaged. I don't know if you're there yet.
We'll be there in just a minute.
Okay, so I'll wait.
Well, if you don't remember what you did on your first date, do you remember any of your dates, what you did?
No, we just went out.
Just when
Like to-
Like dinner, movies?
Well, mostly we went with our own crowd. There's always several people around, and we go to O'Connell. You would know O'Connell's was a hamburger place. We all go there for late snacks or snacks or dinners. We'd always have, you get a table for 10, you know, we'd always be enough of us. And we'd go to O'Connell's. Or we go to Ricketts, that's another restaurant there, right?
What characteristics did you like about each other?
Well, I liked everything about Grandma. She looked right, she talked right, she thought right, she is right.
he had a car.
Anything else, Grandma?
What did you say?
Never mind.
She said you had a car.
Yeah, I use everything at my disposal.
Anything else, Graham?
He was probably the most affluent of any of the group.
He was a looker, wasn't he?
I don't
Actually,
think I was very good looking. I have photographs that prove she's wrong, but she said,
no, that's not true. Actually, he wasn't very good looking. He had acne. And, right?
right?
He wasn't. He really wasn't very good looking. He got better looking as he got older.
Yeah.
In fact, he's the best looking now than he ever was. We'll show you pictures of him. When he was younger, he had a terrible complexion. It really was bad.
Otherwise, I had handicaps to overcome, but I overcame them.
Yeah, he overcame it.
So you liked very superficial things about Grandpa.
Is that what I'm saying?
What about your parents? Did they like each other? Grandma, did your parents like Grandpa? Grandpa, did your parents like Grandma?
Oh, they loved Grandma.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I know I got along very well with with Graham's father. He and I were really good friends. He used to live with us.
They were both
They were both-
intellectuals and Jewish scholars. They were both Jewish scholars.
Every Saturday we'd argue about something in the Bible. And
That was when he lived with us. But before we were married, my mother was very upset because his parents insisted on my going with them whenever they were going on a trip with with his father that was traveling. They always wanted me to go with them. Remember?
Yeah.
And my mother was dead set against it. I can remember crying on the bed in the first bedroom there. We had a big apartment on Surf Street, 435 Surf, and she would not let me go. And she didn't want me to get so involved with him at that age, you know. And I cried my heart out. Somehow it got resolved. I'm not sure how or why, but that's
65
true.
years later, still not
Yeah.
restored.
Did you guys have a curfew?
No.
No, we never did. What we had were, who's in? Somebody here? What we had was this big apartment on Surf Street, okay? And we were all there together, Joe and Dina and Miriam. We were all there and we were all dating. And there were 2 couches in the living room. And the trick was who got each couch first when they came in from their date. And that was a big hassle, a big to-do.
Did you guys ever have to sneak out to see each other, or were your parents pretty okay with you guys?
No, we knew, yeah, by then we never sneaked
Oh,
in.
sure, we
Huh?
parents were no problem.
Well, my parents weren't.
Your mother was
Yeah.
out there.
They weren't thrilled.
All right, so now we'll get into the engagement. Did you know right away that you guys were going to be together forever? And that can sort of lead into how you got engaged and that sort of thing.
I think by the time we were 19, we knew that was it.
And for the record, how old were you when you started dating each other?
At 17.
That's
16 or he
We
was
knew each other
17,
when
I
I
was
was
16.
16.
Okay.
So did you think that was it for you both? That
Yeah,
you were
it worked
set?
out pretty well, too.
How about you, Grandma?
You're getting ahead of the story.
Yeah, well,
That's not what she's
one
asking.
story, one ending.
That's not what she's asking.
So by the time from the beginning you didn't know, you weren't 100% sure, but like a year or 2 later you were pretty sure. Is that what you're saying?
He was sure from the first day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
we
was pretty
became
sure.
engaged the night of Aunt Miriam and Uncle Bert's first anniversary. We had been at a party at their house, and we got in the car to go home, and you had a ring. You had a ring.
And how did you ask her, Grandpa? What were your words? And were you nervous?
I wasn't nervous. I just asked her if she would marry me.
This was in the
Yeah.
car?
And I showed her the ring. Of course, she couldn't turn on the ring.
And how long had you been together before you were engaged?
About two years at least.
So over 2. It was over 2.
Then she went back to Aberdeen.
After you were engaged?
Yeah. So in order to get past that, I had to marry the poor girl.
So
Yeah.
how long were you guys engaged before you got married?
1 year.
1 year.
And then
And I was in Aberdeen, and he was in Chicago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty much
for your whole
every day.
engagement?
Yeah.
And did you move back after you were married?
Oh yeah. Well, she lived. Yeah, we lived in Chicago. I was here and working and everything else.
Where was the wedding?
And on Shema Synagogue.
You know this. You know the synagogue. Yeah.
So after you were married, did you move in together?
After we were married.
Oh yeah.
Oh
It
yeah.
was the first
After,
day.
not before.
Not before.
Not before.
On the first day.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we want to hear about your wedding now. You know, whatever you can remember about your wedding, what you did, who was there, what you said where, when it took place, like what time of year, the date. We'd like to know too.
I think. Excuse me. I think we have to go to.
It's 5:45.
Yeah.
This is our last question.
Okay.
This is our last question.
Where it was at on Shema,
Okay. And what was the date?
January 2nd, 1944. The reason it was in January was because my father was in the retail business. and he couldn't leave the store during Christmas or, you know, before, because that's the best business time of the year. So it had to be January 2nd. One.
And then, well, go ahead.
Just details about the wedding. People that were there. Was it a big wedding, small
Yeah,
wedding?
big
Describe
wedding.
your dress. Everything
Well, my
about the
dress
wedding.
you can see in the picture.
Big
I had,
wedding.
huh? It was a big
Big
wedding.
I was in tails.
Yeah, it was a formal wedding. Or we
You were in
formal.
what, Grandpa?
Tails. Do you know what
You
tails?
don't know.
Oh.
It wasn't just black. It wasn't just a tuxedo. It was tails.
And I, of course, was in a long dress. And we had Rabbi Goldman, the father of this, my dearest friend. And he officiated. And there was a very wonderful cantor at Anshiamat, a beautiful voice, Cantor Silverman. And he was there. He helped officiate. We had a couple hundred people. The reception was there, and had dinner after the wedding. My father almost didn't make it because nobody bothered to check to see if he was covered too big to come to Anshiamat. He didn't drive. He never drove. And he was standing on the corner a couple miles away from the synagogue, January 2nd. It was pretty cold, trying to get a cab because everybody messed up and didn't remember to have him picked up.
I didn't know.
You never knew that?
No.
Oh yeah, he was on Diversey on the corner waiting for a cab. Poor guy. Oh golly. But finally, I guess he got a cab and came to the synagogue.
Did he walk you down the
He
aisle?
walked me down the aisle. Yeah.
And then did you have, like dancing?
We had a big, after the ceremony, we went into the community hall, and there was a big repast or dinner or whatever, you know, and there was dancing, and there was, it was a lovely wedding.
It was a lovely wedding. Were either of you guys nervous about getting married?
What?
Were you nervous about getting married?
I think so. I was absolutely right.
You should have seen his parents bring him up to the altar.
You got that. Everybody thinks that I was nervous. I wasn't.
What
It
was
just
that?
The aisle was too narrow for three of us.
Oh,
And
was
so
that-
they were cuddled in, I was huddled in. Anyway, it worked out. We got on the pulpit, and we were.
It
okay.
looked like his parents were dragging him in, like he couldn't stand up on his own
Yeah.
and make it. That's
It
the way
worked
it
out.
looked.
It worked out. very
It worked out. Yeah, it worked out.
All right, and finally, I know you guys have to go. Anything else that stands out in your mind about the wedding day? Anything special? Anything that happened that wasn't according to plan? Anything else you have to add?
Or just anything that sticks out in your mind about the day?
Well, we went to the Ambassador at West Hotel
yeah,
for
you gotta tell.
our first honeymoon. Then we went to New York the next
What do you mean
morning.
our first honeymoon? We only had one honeymoon.
I mean, the first night of our honeymoon.
Yeah.
And our friends, without telling us, found out about it and knocked on the door and
God
said,
bless
it's
'em.
room service. And we opened the door, they all barged in, stayed with us, ordered up champagne, which I paid for, of course. And they were there for a couple hours.
We had a great bunch of friends.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
One of them was Sylvia. And Art, her husband, who was a great guy. Oh, he was such a great guy. And one of them was a great prankster.
Larry Warren.
Yeah, he was really a prankster. He wasn't married, was he then?
Not then.
No, we were the Fraternsky. Yeah, a knock on the door, and she said, it's room service, so we opened the door, and they
That's
all
so funny.
all-
So where was your honeymoon? Say that again.
The honeymoon, we went to the Ambassador East. You don't know those hotels. They aren't anymore, I don't think.
They are, I think.
They are? The same name?
They redid it. I think they got people Mostly entertainers go there. People
On the
spend-
near north side, on
Okay.
Rush Street.
Okay. And how long was your honeymoon for?
10 days.
Wow. Very
How long
nice.
what?
Was the honeymoon for?
How long was the honeymoon? Probably about 2 weeks. We went to New York the next day by train. Because we
I
didn't
loved
fly.
the train. Loved the train.
Yeah,
We
Grandma
had-
loved train.
We had a suite. There was a shower.
Wow.
Grandpa wouldn't let me use it. He was afraid I'd fall or something.
The train was wavering and she'd fall down. That would be
The
like-
Broadway Limited was the wonderful train. Oh gosh, it was just, and I loved the train. It was wonderful. We had this beautiful suite, and it was overnight. Of course, it was a long trip, and I just loved it. Oh, but the thing was that's the only place we went after that was to New York. We used to go and go and go to New York. But
It was nice though.
it was fun on the Broadway Limited. It was a great
It
trip.
was nice to be in New York in those days.
Yeah, it was nice to be in New York.
We stayed at the Waldorf and we went to theater.
The Waldorf was something then. Yeah.
Great. Well,
Okay.
thank you so
There we
much.
are.